Okay, helifreakers, this is Daryl. We race mow on helifreak. I received a private message from rcflyerheli today. He's from Granbury, I guess that's UK. He kept recommending that I try the Western Robotics Super Hercules BEC. So after kind of brushing them off, which was a wrong thing to do, I've finally taken out my Western Robotics BEC and my Castle. This is a Castle BEC Pro, and this is a Western Robotics. Set to 8.2 volts on the Western Robotics and 8 volts on the Castle. I currently have the Castle hooked to the Vbar. I have one servo to prove that it's not a power issue. I'm using another different Vbar just to prove that it's not the Vbar, and another different receiver. This is on my Goblin 380. And after powering them up, this is the Castle. Locks up. Get a better picture of this. Okay, I am not using any pitch pumps at all. My pitch pump is set at 0. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and crank it. I think rcflyerheli is onto something here, but it's not exactly answering why. The only thing I found so far that works is the Western Robotics BEC, and I'm going to wire it up and prove it. Power down my LiPo. It's a 12 cell LiPo I'm using. Just in case you were wondering, yes, the Western Robotics BEC will work with a 12 cell LiPo. I think up to 14. I believe that's why I got it and prefer it over the Castle. Okay, now this is the Western Robotics BEC wired up. I'm going to hook up my 12 cell LiPo. It's just 2 pulses for my 570. Try to focus there. Okay, Goblin 380 is back up and running. We're at 8.2 volts, which is exactly what our setting is on the Western Robotics BEC. We're going to give it a pitch pump test with a setting of 50. Okay, helifreakers, here's your answer. One servo works great. I'm confident it'll work with all the servos if it's working with one. I do not have an answer why. I know it's not anything to do with the power, because I've tested this with LiPos, and I believe a LiPo probably puts out more amps than the Western Robotics. I've tested this with different capacitors and a LiPo and still had it fail. I've tested this with the Hobby Wing, the 10 amp internal Hobby Wing BEC, and it failed. I've tested it with the Castle 20 amp BEC Pro, and it was 2 set at 8 volts, and it failed. So then the Western Robotics at 8.2 volts, and I'm confident it's nothing to do with power, works. So I do have a solution here. We can thank rcflyerheli for this. This is something he went through with I guess older versions of Vbar before the NEO came out. It's something he found. It does not explain why it fails with everything else, but at least this is an option to purchase this. can't remember how much it was. I want to say it was close to $100, but at least it's an option over having to buy another set of servos, $600 set of servos. It seems to me that Western Robotics Hercules BEC is definitely the best choice for anything related to Vbar and external satellite. I think running that Western Robotics is a good idea, no matter what you got. Now, it does have 2 power cords on it, so I would recommend to get the full capacity out of it to pull the gray pin off this single connector right here. See how it's only got 1 pin on that connector, a little bit blurry, and running that single gray pin into one of the pins of the Western Robotics. That'll give you 1 extra port, because once you have all your stuff plugged into here, the most you're going to get is a channel 4. So you can have one of these Western Robotics go into channel 4 and the other go into the aux 2 alongside this single pin, if you combine them into that same pin. That'll give you the room to still have your ESC. And don't forget that with your speed controller, you need to unplug the power wire going to it. So if this were my speed controller power wire, I would take that red wire out and disconnect it. So you'd be running completely off the Western Robotics. On the other end, the business end, it looks to me like soldering is your only option. For me, it makes it difficult to run an external BEC because I run the single bullets. So I have a tendency to want to try to find a way to open up the cover of my ESC, speed controller, and solder it closer to that and bring it back. Sometimes that doesn't work so well because the solder, it seems to be really wicked into the wire coming off of the ESC, at least on the castles. So haven't done anything else. But okay, helifreakers, this is We Race Mo, and again, thank you to rcflyerheli for being persistent and nagging me, and I apologize. He was right, and we do have a fix to get the 8002 servos working. Cheers.